For only the fourth time in its illustrious history, Royal Lytham St Anne's played host to the Amateur Championship in 2007. Almost 300 players arrived on England's northwest coast, intent on claiming the oldest title in the amateur game. The most famous name on the trophy? Undoubtedly, the great Bobby Jones. He won the Open here in 1926, beating, amongst others, the leading professional of the Roaring Twenties, Walter Hagen. 4 years later, Jones went on to win the amateur at St Andrews. That was the year of his so-called impregnable quadrilateral. Since then, 17 Americans have been crowned amateur champion, but none since 1979. This year, only one player from across the Atlantic has survived to the quarterfinals. 20-year-old Drew Weaver. Weaver, within yards of the awful Virginia Tech massacre in April, was experiencing his first taste of links golf, British style. He soon became acquainted with its vagaries, but acquitted himself very well.
This is my first trip overseas and first experience with links golf, so I don't know. I mean, the conditions are obviously very different. It's a huge adjustment from golf in the States.
After 2 days of stroke play competition, frustration and character-building golf, the enormous field was whittled down to 64 for the match play stages. Regardless of its difficulty, every one of these survivors relished taking on one of Britain's greatest golfing examinations.
It's Lytham. It's held the Open. You're looking down the fairway, you think, right, I've got it at the fairway. There's 15 bunkers either side and there's thick rough. What do? Just got to commit to your line and hit it.
Undeniably daunting. Having negotiated his first 2 matches, one of the pre-championship favourites, Lloyd Saltman, was 3 up through 10 holes against Chris Wood. But the Englishman fought back and took the contest down the 18th. Although it was all square, Saltman looked to have the advantage after that, but Wood, a teenager from Bristol, was about to place the Scot under pressure. Now Saltman, already a 4-time winner on the amateur circuit this year, was faced with a must-make putt to force extra holes. Quite a scalp for young Wood.
To be honest, I felt like the pressure was on him, really, because he was expected to beat me, I felt. I was obviously the underdog, but got to ring my dad, let him know. But yeah, it's brilliant.
But the next time Wood phoned Dad, the news wasn't so good. Despite this birdie, he was on the way home.
Come on. Yes.
The reason? He was beaten 2-1 by the ever more confident American Weaver, through to a semi-final meeting with Jason Shufflebotham.
Weaver wins by 2-1.
As for the second semi-final, well, that would see Callum Macaulay from Scotland tackling the Australian amateur champion, Tim Stewart. The stakes were high.
Oh, I think it's an incredibly important event, and I think it'll grow again, actually, because really, I think Tiger, above anyone else, showed that you need to have a good amateur career by way of a sound basis from which to attack the pro game. And I think more and more players are wanting to do the amateur side of things properly before they move on. And this is a great title to have under their belts.
Now, I don't know about one hand on the trophy, but Shufflebotham had one hand on the club on the first tee. Nevertheless, in breezy conditions, the Welshman made the early running, here going 2 up. But Weaver reserved his best for the back 9. Simply superb iron play enabled him to rally. First to all square here on the 15th, then to 1 up just a hole later. As a consequence, Shufflebotham had this to stay alive on the 17th. Instead, Weaver won 2-1, as he did against Wood in the previous round. He's the first American finalist since Bob May, he of US PGA fame, in 1991. There was never more than a single hole in the other keenly contested semi-final. Momentum swung one way, then back the other, and although Macaulay was much closer to home, Stewart had plenty of support from fellow countrymen already knocked out of the championship. No debate over the turning point. It came on the 15th. A wild tee shot left Macaulay an impossible second, and the Australian was one up. The 16th and 17th were subsequently halved, leaving Stewart with 2 putts on the home green for a narrow one-hole triumph. That was that. Macaulay conceded, and history was made. Man Mountain Stewart, all 6'6", and 220 pounds of him, became the first Australian to book a place in the final of the Amateur Championship in more than half a century. Matilda was waltzing with glee. So to the final. The 36-hole denouement of the 2007 Amateur Championship. The first between 2 non-Europeans since Jay Sigel defeated Scott Hoke at Hillside 28 years ago.
Hole half in 3, Weaver remains 1 up.
After the customary twists and turns, it was the American challenger, who's 165th in the American collegiate rankings, who went into lunch clutching a slender lead.
Hole half in 5, so Weaver 2 up after 18 holes. This has been a staggering amateur championship. The quality of the golf has been exceptional. And it's on an Open Championship course, played off Open Championship tees. It's been a very good test, and the wind has blown from every direction almost, and these boys are staggeringly good.
The afternoon round was dominated by Weaver. By the time he arrived at the par 3 12th, the advantage had been stretched to 5 up. But there was no risk of any complacency. Make that 6 up. With his proud father caddying, Weaver Jr. looked home and dry. But this would be no foregone conclusion. Dormy 6 down became 5 down with 5 to play, and Stewart's last gasp recovery continued on the 14th. At the ever-demanding 15th, Stewart could only manage a par, leaving Weaver with the opportunity to finally close the door. No, the pressure now visible, and Stewart then had a birdie putt on the 16th to secure a 4th consecutive hole. Who could possibly have thought it? Stewart, all but dead and buried, now only 2 down with 2 holes to play. At the dangerous dogleg 17th, Stewart found the green in 2. Weaver, suddenly thinking the unthinkable, missed to the left. Under the circumstances, a cool chip, but Stewart still had a birdie attempt to guarantee the match going to the 36th hole. This time, heroics not forthcoming, meaning that finally, after a nerve-wracking hour or so on the threshold of victory, Weaver can wrap it up with a par. Relief palpable. The valiant Stewart is denied. Weaver wins 2-1.
I've been in this situation in almost all my matches, 2 up with 2 to go, and I was just thinking about that walking down the fairway. I said, you got this. You're 2 up with 2 to go. You're in great shape. So what if I was 6 up earlier? It's all the same. I go and make a good par on this hole, and that's it. And somehow I was able to get that done.
The champion's reward, an invitation to the Open at Carnoustie and to next year's Masters.
It's surreal. I'm going to have to pinch myself for months, I'm sure, but wow, it's an incredible honor.
Drew Weaver, amateur champion, 2007.